One introduction ROSEP view: the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. ROSEP view: purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or ROSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this ROSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning, and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHYAFF December 16, 2025, a measles outbreak brings with it echoes of the pandemic. In Webisode 57DHYAFF, Google alerts G1 World, G2 United States, G3 Arizona, G4 California, G5 Colorado, G6 Idiot Corner, G7 Minnesota, G8 Nebraska, G9 Texas, G10 Vermont, G11 Washington, G12 Australia, G13 United Kingdom, G14 Scotland, G15 Germany, G16 Israel, G17 India, G18 Thailand. Headlines: H19 United States, H20 California, H21 Connecticut, H22 New York City, H23 South Carolina, H24 Germany. Headlines: 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Main content. Google alerts G1 World. Toxic air in the home is a global health emergency. The conversation: young man watches over pots and pans cooking on a wood-burning stove. Kitchen with wood-fired stove creating white smoke. Millions of people. Our G2 United States appliance expert exposes the actual HVAC problems leaving homeowners in the cold. The cool down an appliance expert took to YouTube to help reassure uncertain HVAC buyers about the benefits of heat pumps. United States ROSEP view. This article does not mention the adverse health effects of wood burning, only chimney fires, which can lead to house fires. From the article headline: as the wood burning season heats up, chimney inspections could avert fire. News Center 1. As the temperatures cool down, wood burning fireplaces heat up. Each year there are an estimated 20,000 chimney fires in the United States, causing United States. Do not believe this extremely common heat pump myth/gear. Despite what you hear, heat pumps can handle harsh winters. Here is why they do not work in the cold. Belief is just a myth, and debunk other United States electric heat pumps prevail despite fickle federal energy policy. Clean Technica. Heat pumps typically work by exchanging air like a refrigerator, except they can work both ways to provide either heating or cooling as needed. Water. United States the hands-down best window heat pumps to buy this winter, according to Reviews House Digest. While they do not have enough power to heat an entire house, a window heat pump can warm a single room, or in some instances a larger open space like United States ROSEP view. Unfortunately, the end of federal rebates for heat pumps on 12/31/2025 appears to have some effect in dampening consumer ability to purchase heat pumps. From the article headline: heat pump AC shipments fall for 5th straight month. ACHR News. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute data show that heat pump, AC furnace, and water heater shipments all fell in October in United States home battery rebate reduction. See the impact. Solar quotes. We take a look at the impact the rebate reduction will have on financial support for some popular home storage systems. Top 5 heat pump brands. United States homeowner gets honest about heat pump HVACs after frigid temperatures roll in the cool down. When the temperature in winter plunges, many homeowners brace for sky-high heating bills, but cold weather heat pumps provide a surprisingly efficient. United States. How the changes to the federal battery rebate will impact you. Energy Matters. Homes with high evening electricity use low feed-in tariffs or plans to add electric vehicles or heat pumps will still see strong benefits. United States HVAC industry insiders break down the ultra-efficient tech, helping homeowners save big on the cool down. But heat pump engineer Gwendolyn van der Linden told CNET that number: I would have never been able to afford any kind of bike without this rebate. Heat pumps can actually be more than 100% efficient, according to several heating experts who spoke with CNET. United States Jim Chalmers makes surprising decision about cash boost MSN heat pump. Even if you do not qualify, go banking rates. 4 reasons to upgrade to a heat pump even if you do not qualify for a $2,000 tax credit. United States realtor breaks down the home appliances that U.S. homeowners are rushing to install. It is amazing the cool down. A realtor on TikTok shared a viral video about heat pumps, one of the cleanest and most energy-efficient heating and cooling systems. G3 Arizona. The Maricopa County Air Quality Department has declared a no-burn day for Saturday and Sunday. Arizona Emergency Information Network (AZIN). Eliminate wood burning in fireplaces, stoves, chimneys, and outdoor fire pits. Convert your wood-burning fireplace to natural gas or propane. A no-burn day issued for Saturday, December 1st. Maricopa County. Wood burning in residential fireplaces, chimneys, outdoor fire pits. PM comes from combustion cars industry. Wood burning or dust stirred up into Arizona. News flash: a no-burn day issued for Saturday, December 1st. Maricopa County. Particulate matter 2.5 PM 2.5, also known as dust, for Maricopa County, Arizona. The following mandatory restrictions are in effect during a no. Arizona Santan Valley SRP offers new rebates to help customers save energy and money year-round. SantanValley.com. Energy Star. Heat pump water heaters are up to 4 times more efficient than standard models. SRP customers who install one can receive a $500 rebate. Arizona. Thousands urged to stay inside in California, Arizona. Unhealthy. Newsweek. The South Coast Air Quality Management District (AQMD) said that the no-burn rule bans burning wood pellets and manufactured fire logs. And any G4 California agency again declares no-burn day for much of Southern California. The South Coast Facebook. The no-burn rule prohibits burning wood as well as manufactured fire logs, such as those made from wax or paper. Do your part to help keep our air. Smoke from wood burning can cause health problems, according to the AQMD. Fine particulate matter called PM 2.5 can get deep into the lungs to cause California. Los Angeles no-burn order extended through Monday for much of Southern California. MyNewsLA.com. The South Coast Air Quality Management District extended a no-burn alert for 24 additional hours Sunday, prohibiting wood burning in fireplaces. California. Los Angeles, December 13th, 2025. Los Angeles, among most polluted cities in the world. IQ Air and Air Quality Alert is in effect across much of the region due to elevated fine particulate pollution, prompting a mandatory wood burning ban in the 4 stainless steel interior. California. Los Angeles issues air quality alert and wood burning ban amid sunny hood line. The no-burn rule bans burning wood pellets and manufactured fire logs in any indoor or outdoor wood burning device, per the statement issued by California. Pasadena. No-burn order extended through Sunday for much of Southern California. Pasadena. Now the South Coast Air Quality Management District extended a no-burn alert for 24 additional hours hours on Saturday prohibiting wood burning in California Pasadena no-burn order, extended through Monday 4. Much of Southern California Pasadena now smoke from wood burning can cause health problems according to the AQMD gas, and other fireplaces which do not burn wood are also not restricted. California Santa Clarita mandatory wood burning ban in effect Monday. KHTS Radio the South Coast AQMD has issued a mandatory wood burning ban effective Monday December 8, 15 until 11:59 p.m. The no-burn rule bans burning wood mandatory wood burning ban in effect Tuesday. KHTS Radio wood burning ban effective Tuesday December 9th until 11:59 p.m. The no-burn rule bans burning wood pellets as well as manufactured fire logs and any mandatory wood burning ban in effect Monday. KHTS Radio the South Coast AQMD has issued a mandatory wood burning ban effective Monday Dec 15th until 11:59 p.m. California Thousand Oaks Council approves fire ordinance changes despite ambiguities. Thousand Oaks Acorn to that end. The ordinance prohibits combustible materials in Zone 0, including vegetation mulch, wood chips, vines, synthetic turf planting. G5 Colorado curbing climate change would also reduce harmful air pollutants, saving millions of lives. University of Colorado Boulder air pollutants, such as nitrogen dioxide, NO2, fine particulate matter PM 2.5 and ozone are among the main components of the smog that often Colorado Rio Grande National Forest fall winter/pile burns planned. USDA Forest Service prescribed fire smoke may affect your health. For more information, see https www.colorado.gov Pacific fee wood smoke and health. For more. G6 Idiot Corner California Klamath fire danger level downgraded to high. USDA Forest Service Klamath stoves look like wood burning fireplaces that can be used for cooking or to generate warmth. Campfires require a valid California campfire. Idiot Corner Rozep view. This article obviously is oblivious to the adverse health consequences of wood burning PM 2.5 emissions. It is not comforting to causes early deaths of your family members and yourself, not to mention the near neighbors who are forced to breathe in the air pollution you needlessly create. From the article headline, Washington Vashon fire officials urge safer burning as winter begins. Vashon Maury Island Beachcomber. The holidays on Vashon are made for wood burning fires. The smell drifts from chimneys, clings to sweaters, and fills the air with the comforting. Idiot Corner United Kingdom government must assess the rural impact of wood burning stove rules. Countryside Alliance wood burning stoves for heat, while welcoming the government ambition to reduce exposure to fine particulate matter PM 2.5 and improve public. Idiot Corner web sizzling fire shower experience by Furwasser. Instagram back to the basics. Wood fire and calm. Meet our wood-fired hot tub crafted in thermo wood with a 30 wood smoke. G7 Minnesota Eden Prairie. More homeowners turn to heat pump water heaters as energy costs rise. Eden Prairie local news. Heat pumps transfer heat rather than generate it. A heat pump water heater draws heat from the surrounding air, compresses it to raise the temperature. G8 Nebraska Peninsula Clean Energy Rebates 2025. Super Brothers Leeds Bay, a Northeast News Channel. Nebraska Super Brothers Plumbing, Heating, and Air Partners with Peninsula Clean Energy to expand heat pump and electrification upgrades across the Bay Area. G9 Texas Austin Peninsula Clean Energy Rebates 2025. Super Brothers Leeds Bay Area Home Electrification. KXAN Austin Heat Pump Water Heaters, HPWHs, mini split heat pumps, and smart electrical panels with generous regional rebates. Peninsula Clean Energy Home. G10 Vermont. Rutland notice of adoption of solid waste through open burning ordinance. Rutland Herald wood in an outdoor fireplace or fire ring or burning natural wood when there is snow surrounding the open burning site. The full text of the G11 Washington Tacoma. Thousands of residents apply for instant rebates after officials roll out $1,200 e-bike incentive to cool down. I would have never been able to afford any kind of bike without this rebate. A cleaner, more affordable future might be just one heat pump away. G12 Australia runaway home battery rebate forces rethink solar. Quotes the success of the Albanese government home battery rebate is piling pressure on the program funding and policy settings. Top 5 heat pump brands. G13 United Kingdom London air pollution tied to diminished benefits of regular exercise. Endocrinology advisor. PM 2.5 35 to 50 micrograms per cubic meter. Risk reductions varied by PM 2.5 exposure. Hazard ratios 0.75, 0.67, 0.34, 0.34, and 0.30 for 35 to 50, 25 to 35, 15 to 25. G14 Scotland Aberdeen Air Source Heating expands energy independence options with launch of Home Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce. The rebate is delivered as a virtual Visa reward card and applies to up heat pump. Book a free home survey at www.aberdeenairsource.com. G15 Germany greater exposure to PM 2.5 and PM 10 is associated with a higher bad score. The Maastricht study. Nature. We evaluated the following pollutants: particulate matter PM nitrogen dioxide, NO2, and soot. PM is categorized as PM 2.5 fine particles, with Germany third of. Germans would opt for heat pump if given the choice. Survey. Clean energy wire heat pumps, which use electricity to efficiently transfer heat from outside into homes, were clearly more popular than all other heating technologies. G16 Israel traffic pollution alters the atmospheric electric field. Study finds FIS.org. Particulate matter PM 2.5 and nitrogen oxides NOx influence the potential gradient PG, a key measure of the atmospheric electric field under Israel. Cyprus, Greece. How accurate are operational dust models in predicting particulate matter PM levels? In NES. Copernicus.org. Ground-based observations from regional background stations support model performance assessment across different PM fractions. PM 10, PM 2.5, and G17 India. Choking on air. The Meghalaya PM 2.5 problem. Highland Post PM 2.5 refers to tiny inhalable airborne particles, dust, soot, smoke, less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter, making them 30 times smaller than a hair. India. The Delhi evening commute delivers the worst lung damage of 2025. New study finds India Today. Particulate matter PM 2.5 and 23% higher concentrations of PM 10 compared to morning commuters. The study, conducted by researchers from India. News study evening Commute in Delhi causes more lung damage than morning travel MSN PM 2.5 and 23% more PM10 compared to morning travelers. The transcript notes that air pollution accounted for 15% of all deaths in Delhi last G18. Thailand Bangkok PM 2.5 drops to good range, but Lat Krabang still tops the list. Nation Thailand. The Bangkok Air Quality Information Center on December 9th at around 7 a.m. reported citywide levels of fine particulate matter PM 2.5 not exceeding 2.5. H19 United States RFK Jr. Lack of knowledge of medicine and science. FDA Commissioner Marty McCarry brings the quackery excerpts edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Dr. Angela Rasmussen newsletter December 14, 2025. It is just as alarming to hear the FDA Commissioner Marty McCarry parrot major anti-vax talking points that his agency is actively attempting to implement in its overhauled regulatory processes as it is to hear him say that Lyme disease is probably a homegrown bioweapon. It is even more alarming considering that McCarry is doing this to promote the Hogue and Prasad efforts to eviscerate the childhood vaccine schedule. The ideas that too many shots are bad or aluminum salt adjuvants are dangerous do not sound as outrageous or ridiculous as the idea that HIV came from a lab, but they are still conspiracy theories. They lack supporting evidence. So a conspiracy is created to explain why there is no evidence. I cannot prove that my claim that Danish kids get fewer shots and less aluminum and are thus healthier than American kids because the truth is being suppressed by Big Pharma, the Biden administration, Fauci wokeness, trans people, scientists, lockdown-loving academic and public health elites, and anyone else who can be conveniently demonized. Yet substituting evidence for conspiracy theories is not an acceptable method of scientific inquiry. Competent scientists develop hypotheses and test them dispassionately to falsify or confirm them with evidence. Incompetent scientists, including gastrointestinal surgeons turned thirsty venal opportunists with no sense of ethics or professional integrity, develop hypotheses and construct elaborate fiction to ensure that they are upheld. H20 California RFK Jr. Lack of knowledge of science and medicine. California hires former CDC officials who criticize Trump administration. A former director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and a former chief medical officer of the agency will advise the state on public health issues. Susan Menares and Dr. Deborah Oury have been hired as consultants for the California Department of Public Health. Excerpts edited for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times December 14, 2025. Governor Gavin Newsom plans to announce on Monday that California has hired 2 former leaders of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention who accused the Trump administration of abandoning scientific standards. One is Susan Menares, a former director of the CDC who was fired by the White House in late August after Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. tried to remove her from her position and she resisted leaving. The other is Dr. Deborah Oury, a former chief medical officer of the CDC who quit partly in protest over the firing of Dr. Menares. Both will now serve as consultants for the California Department of Public Health. Newsom has been working to elevate his national profile as a leading Democratic voice against President Trump and to position himself for a possible 2028 presidential run. He has tried to make California a Democratic bulwark on the West Coast and has repeatedly countered moves by the Trump administration in the public health arena. The Newsom latest hires build on an earlier effort to create an alliance of West Coast states for vaccine policy. California, Oregon, and Washington, all led by Democratic governors, have agreed to work together to review scientific data and make vaccine recommendations independently of the federal government. Newsom is also a member of the Governors Public Health Alliance, a coalition of 15 Democratic governors, and California in September became the first U.S. state to join the World Health Organization Global Outbreak Alert Response Network, an international effort to track and respond to emerging diseases. It is unclear whether the CDC will continue to participate in the network after January 20th, when the United States will formally end its relationship with the WHO in her new role. Dr. Menares is expected to advise California health officials on how to modernize the state public health infrastructure, including the systems used by medical centers to report emerging outbreaks to the state government. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed weaknesses in the outdated manual systems that many states rely on to transfer information between hospitals and public health agencies. Dr. Oury said in an interview that her goal was to help California explore ways to develop its own tools, for example, a test for a dangerous new infectious disease, and to share data with other states without needing to rely on federal authorities. California has entered a 1-year contract with Caitlin Jetelina, an epidemiologist who rose to prominence during the COVID pandemic. Dr. Jetelina said her venture, your local epidemiologist, aims to ensure that the state policies closely reflect the public health concerns of residents and are communicated clearly to the public. Dr. Oury said the goal in each case was to complement efforts by the CDC rather than to replace them. People may view this as partisan and they can draw their own conclusions, she said, but in my mind it has always been about health and populations and not politics. H21 Connecticut, Monroe and Norfolk Rosep view Monroe negotiated a large software company price down, but Norfolk turned to a smaller software company. From the article headline, Rural Volunteer Fire Departments Private Equity finds a new source of profit in volunteer fire departments. Rural departments have long relied on cheap software solutions to keep their operations running, but fire chiefs report sharp price increases as investors have entered the market. With industry upheaval, volunteer fire departments are losing access to software tools and scrambling to find affordable alternatives. Excerpts edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times December 14, 2025. The Norfolk Volunteer Fire Department operates on an annual budget of $132,000, barely enough to sustain its aging rigs, train unpaid crews, And keep the lights on at the station in the hills of northern Connecticut. Not long ago, it faced a different kind of emergency. The software system it relied on to track detailed incident information was no longer going to be usable. A company backed by private equity investors, ESO Solutions, had acquired the platform and planned to shut it down. The alternative software it was offering would raise the community costs from $795 per year to more than $5,000 urgently. Looking for an alternative, the department found a cheaper system, but then ESO bought up the other brand. We do not have a big tax base, said an assistant fire chief in Norfolk. Much of the software used by firefighters and other emergency responders was initially created by people who worked in those fields and felt a calling to keep prices affordable. But now fire chiefs around the country are scrambling to manage shrinking options and soaring costs as corporations flush with cash. From Wall Street have raced to dominate the market, the Emergency Services Department had to turn to a new vendor, one that has a strategic partnership with ESO. The costs went up managing budgets. A longtime manager at the Stevenson Volunteer Fire Company in Monroe, Connecticut, built the Rover platform starting more than 2 decades ago. He was among those who initially complained when he saw the cost for the ESO fire software. He was eventually able to negotiate a price that was only double the previous cost to the department. He said the escalating prices could drive some departments back to using paper records, but he was too slow to raise prices at Rover over the years. While some of the prices he was quoted for new software seemed excessive, others did not, including his final deal with ESO. Would I like it to be less? Sure, he said. Do I feel like I am being gouged? No. In Norfolk in 2025, the maintenance budget jumped $5,000 because a truck needed a new set of tires, yet the department has limited funding, forcing it to turn to silent auctions and karaoke fundraisers. The problem with the ESO software proposal was not just the higher cost for the new product. When the department made the decision to drop ESO and asked the company for a copy of the Norfolk computer records to begin migrating to an alternative system if the department wanted the data before the ESO contract came to an end, it would cost $1,200. The department switched anyway to a smaller company, Alpine Software, that is charging it $2,200 a year, less than half of the initial ESO quote. By the calculation of the financial manager, it was worth it. Age 22, New York City. SantaCon fleece love and vomit. The worst SantaCon stories from New Yorkers. The bar crawl and charity fundraiser has been eliciting strong reactions in the city for more than 25 years. Excerpts edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, December 12, 2025. SantaCon is the annual bar crawl that floods the streets of New York City with raucous boozy takes on Santa Claus. For more than a quarter of a century, SantaCon has been a fact of life, beloved by some, detested by others. The event began in San Francisco in 1994 as a jolly commentary on the consumerism of Christmas. In the years since it arrived in New York in 1998, critics have accused it of becoming a disruptive, debaucherous frat party. Last month, we asked New Yorkers to share their most vivid memories of the annual Santa invasion. They described the event as pointless, obnoxious, and confusing. What no one seemed to feel, though, was ambivalence. The reactions it inspires are the subject of a new documentary by the director Seth Porges, who in 2021 discovered a trove of footage of the early years of the event. At the time, the director of the documentary considered himself a SantaCon hater. He thought the event was the absolute worst day of the year and the closest thing we have to a zombie apocalypse. But then he started watching recordings of the first gathering of Santas. He was not instantly horrified by it. In the late 1990s, the event made landfall in Portland, Oregon, followed by Los Angeles before reaching Manhattan. We have to go hard in New York City, said a member of the Brooklyn Cacophony Society and an organizer of the first SantaCon in New York. The now 53-year-old man thought the gathering could be a way to deliver on the reputation for mayhem and public spectacle that is part of the New York City mythology. In the documentary, which debuted last month at DOC NYC, the 100 Santas who attended are captured winding through Central Park, bumping into Michael Moore on Fifth Avenue, and leading a mock protest outside the United Nations headquarters. The New York City organizer said he remembers wrapping cigarettes in the back pages of the Village Voice and handing them out to children. He worries some of that spirit has been lost. A few years ago, he happened to be in the West Village on the day of SantaCon. He told a crowd of Santas that his friends had started the event. They were like, oh whatever, and probably vomited in front of me. He said the original organizers of SantaCon ended up distancing themselves from the event. The Cacophony Society hosted a funeral for SantaCon in 2014, but the event had already taken off among a younger generation. Not everyone shares that excitement. Public opinion of SantaCon curdled around the 2010s. Flyers posted around the Lower East Side warned Santas to keep their distance. For some, SantaCon presents an occupational hazard. The event was unpopular among the emergency room staff at Beth Israel Hospital in Manhattan, said a volunteer nurse there during SantaCon in 2011. The side effects were not so fun for those who had to be the cleanup crew. Around 2015, a man and his girlfriend were sitting at a bar on West 4th Street when they heard the sound of glasses shattering behind them. A group of plastered Santas had gotten in a fight. A bartender hopped over the bar to try to break it up. When the bartender returned, he crouched down and stood up with 2 or 3 full pitchers of urine. SantaCon devotees think the event is unfairly maligned and point out that it became a 501c3 nonprofit in 2012. For every urinating Santa, there are 300 amazing costumes, said the executive director of the costume cult arts collective. SantaCon is here to stay. You are not getting rid of it, he said. They have got attorneys now. Age 23, South Carolina. Spartanburg RFK Jr. Lack of knowledge of medicine and science. A measles outbreak brings with it echoes of the pandemic in South Carolina. Parents struggle to deal with infections that have brought quarantines, and remote learning. Healthcare workers are bracing for an increase in cases. Excerpts edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, December 13, 2025. Late night emails sent to parents informing them that someone in the classroom of their child has been infected with measles. Pediatricians fielding calls from concerned mothers about the vaccination status of their children. An anxious father running into the waiting room of a hospital, a sick baby in his arms, asking for help. What began in the fall as a trickle of measles infections in Spartanburg County, SC, has since grown into an outbreak that has sickened more than 110 people, prompted more than 250 residents to quarantine, and unsettled many more. Across the upstate region of South Carolina, a conservative stronghold where both The manufacturing industry and the population has boomed in recent years. Many families have felt familiar echoes of the pandemic this week. Some children, who were near infected classmates, have resorted to remote learning, with adults calling out from work to take care of them. Frustrations about the length of quarantines are bubbling up in the community, and national divisions over the efficacy of vaccines that deepened during the pandemic have remained as pertinent as ever, with many in Spartanburg still resistant to vaccinations, especially those meant for their children. As pediatric hospitals brace for cases to rise, health officials are working to inform families that the vaccine for measles, a virus that was declared eliminated from the United States more than 2 decades ago, is safe and effective. There is a moment in any kind of outbreak when the temperature sort of changes and questions and concerns of parents shift from curiosity to fear, said a pediatrician and the founder of Parkside Pediatrics, which serves families in the Spartanburg area. At the same time, the clinicians move from being watchful to much more vigilant. Republican South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster said the state was not going to issue vaccine mandates for measles. We have been through that with COVID, and we do not want to go in that direction. He said people need to understand it is dangerous, just like a lot of other diseases. If there is some way to prevent it, you ought to do it. Republican South Carolina State Senator Josh Kimbrell has tried to persuade vaccine-skeptical constituents that the MMR vaccine is safe and effective. The first time a constituent of mine dies because of measles, I am going to lose my mind, Kimbrell said, because we should never have a person in America die of measles in 2025 because they would not take a damn vaccine. Age 24 Germany, the turbulent times of Friedrich Merz. The new chancellor believes the world needs a stronger Germany. He is still navigating how to do it. Excerpts edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, December 15, 2025. The plane ferrying Friedrich Merz to Berlin looked as if someone had spruced up Air Force One and then shrunk it in the wash, as is customary. With new chancellors, Merz had to give up driving when he took office in May, but he is a licensed pilot. In mid-flight, he told me that he was somehow still allowed to take a plane up some days. This plane? No, he said it was larger than the ones he was licensed to fly. Merz took over the leadership, facing a host of economic and security challenges for some Europeans that might seem like a metaphor. In 7 months in office, Merz has emerged as the closest thing Europe has to a political pilot in an extraordinary time of upheaval, including a reversal in relations with the United States. But the continent and his country need him to fly even higher. Europe is caught between a militarily aggressive Russia and a rhetorically hostile American administration that no longer wants to guarantee European security. The German economy, which is the largest of Europe, is wobbling. Its politics, once a model of stability and consensus, have fractured. The Merz political center is threatened by an ascending far-right party, which now leads some national polls and which appears to be the preferred partner for many in the Trump administration. The Merz leading role in confronting those challenges will be on display this week. On Sunday and Monday, he hosted negotiations between Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and 2 envoys from President Trump, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, in hopes of reaching a peace agreement that Europe and Ukraine can accept. On Monday evening, a large group of European leaders will join the negotiators in Berlin for a dinner later in the week. Critical debates loom in Brussels over funding for the Ukraine army and a trade agreement that could boost German growth. Merz remains confident he can navigate it all. The chief complaint about him is that he has been slow to deliver results despite those efforts. Merz got an earful in September when he addressed a meeting of the VDMA, a trade group representing German machine manufacturers, over the pace of his economic plans. Merz has watered down plans to appease his governing partners, the center-left Social Democrats. He has struggled to hold his narrow majority together on difficult votes over judicial nominations and changes to public pensions. Merz has broken taboos about military spending. Trump has proved even more difficult to persuade. Merz has been reluctant to pressure the president on his trade policies, which hurt the German export-driven economy. He fears retaliation, and his advisors say he harbors no illusions that he can change the Trump mind. Merz knows time is running out to recharge economic growth. The far-right populist party Alternative for Germany, or AfD, has gained some ground with appeals to economically distressed voters. Still, the chancellor remains optimistic. Business leaders said that the direction of the Merz economic plans were fine, but that the pace was too slow. At an auto show, Merz bounded through exhibits like an exuberant salesman, beaming over the latest advancements in electric vehicles and cars which drive themselves. Business leaders said in a private meeting he was energized and upbeat about German industry despite its prolonged slump. On the flight back to Berlin, Merz elaborated on his plans to revive the economy, his love of America, and his connection with Trump. He never wavered in his conviction that all would work out. The economy, German politics, the war, perhaps that is what you expect from a man who spent his life grinding toward a goal and then finally reached it. As we prepared to land, the chancellor told me about how he still flew his private plane. I asked how long that might last in Germany. He said they say fly until the doctor comes. Age 25 headlines. The New York Times, December 16, 2025. Automobiles. Rosep view return to dirty energy, with gas-powered vehicles chosen over electric vehicles to manufacture, and Ford will lose a lot of money in the process. From the article headline, Ford will take $19.5 billion hit as it rolls back electrical vehicle EV plans. The New York Times, California Democrat Pelosi long resisted stock trading ban for Congress, fueling suspicion. The New York Times, California death. Rob Reiner made clear what he believed in on-screen and off. The New York Times, China Roomba maker iRobot files for bankruptcy with Chinese supplier taking control. The New York Times, Germany automobiles Volkswagen to end production at German plant, a first in company history. The New York Times, New York, why New York has backed off on addressing climate change. The New York Times, New York affordability with prices soaring. Can New York survive as a mecca for the arts? The New York Times, Serbia Rosep view Trump ally investment stymied. Back to the article headline, the Jared Kushner firm pulls out of Trump-branded hotel deal in Serbia. The New York Times, Syria, U.S. soldiers and translator killed in Syria are identified. The New York Times, Ukraine and allies agree on security guarantee for peace proposal. The New York Times, United Kingdom, Trump Files $10 billion suit over BBC documentary. The New York Times. Venezuela U.S. strikes 3 more boats in Eastern Pacific, killing 8. The New York Times. Age 26 headlines. The New York Times. December 15, 2025. Australia deaths. Police plan to charge suspect in Bondi massacre. The New York Times. Austria. Music. Webisode is the first opera by Austrian composer Alban Berg, created between 1914 and 1922 and premiered on December 14, 1925 at the Berlin State Opera. Based on the George Buchner play Wojciech 1836, it depicts the tragic slide of a soldier into madness and murder amid militarism and oppression. From the article headline, The Berg Wojciech keeps shocking us. After 100 years, the New York Times. Bulgaria do not feed the pig. The call against corruption that helped topple a government. The New York Times. California deaths. Hollywood stars pay tribute to Rob Reiner. The New York Times. California deaths. Michelle Singer Reiner, a photographer who changed movie history. The New York Times. California deaths. Rob Reiner, actor who went on to direct classic films, dies at 78. The New York Times. California deaths. Nick, the son of Rob Reiner, arrested after director and his wife are found dead. Live updates. The New York Times. California deaths. Nick, the son of Rob Reiner, arrested after director and his wife are found dead. Live updates. The New York Times. Chile far right. The cast victory in Chile is another win for global right-wing movement. The New York Times. China approaches first investment decline in 3 decades. The New York Times. China Democrat. The conviction of Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai was years in the making. The New York Times. China opinion. Trump said it would be easy to free Jimmy Lai. He should prove it. The New York Times. France. Louvre Museum staff go on day-long strike, shutting out tourists. The New York Times. Germany. The turbulent times of Friedrich Merz. The New York Times. Indiana reader mailbag. A pause on gerrymanders and a risk in primaries. The New York Times. New York City musical theater Titanic, singing and spoofing Celine Dion sets sail for Broadway. The New York Times. Pennsylvania. A powerful new drug is creating a withdrawal crisis in Philadelphia. The New York Times. Rhode Island deaths. Brown University shooting. Live updates. Police renew search for gunman in deadly attack. The New York Times. Rhode Island deaths. Gunshots at Brown University, then 12 hours of lockdown and fear. The New York Times. Rhode Island deaths. Hospitalized Brown student describes hiding from shooter. The New York Times. Scotland business Carloway Mill turned itself into a Harris Tweed charity. The New York Times. Syria. One who killed U.S. soldiers was member of Syria security forces. Officials say. The New York Times. Trump idea. Opinion. Trump wants to carve up the world. It is a blueprint for disaster. The New York Times. Trump idea. Opinion. The Trump superlatives are bigger than yours. The New York Times. Trump labor board fallout. The Trump cuts hobbled U.S. labor board, leaving festering disputes and a power struggle. The New York Times. Ukraine. Zelensky meets U.S. envoys in Berlin in new round of Ukraine peace talks. The New York Times. Wisconsin. Milwaukee as regional theaters struggle, some defy the odds. The New York Times. Wisconsin Milwaukee trial to start for judge accused of helping undocumented immigrant evade agents. The New York Times. Age 27 headlines. The New York Times. December 14, 2025. Australia deaths. Bondi Beach shooting. Live updates. 15 victims and a gunman dead after attack. The New York Times. Australia deaths. Police say Jewish community targeted in deadly Sydney attack. The New York Times. Australia deaths. What to know about the victims of the Bondi Beach shooting. The New York Times. Australia deaths. Witnesses fled Bondi Beach as gunman targeted Jewish event. The New York Times. California RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. California hires former CDC officials who criticize Trump administration. The New York Times. Chile far right in election poised for right-wing victory as crime fears sweep Latin America. The New York Times. Chile votes in presidential runoff. The New York Times. Chile far right. Jose Antonio Cast elected president of Chile. The New York Times. Film the year Hollywood finally confronted our political moment. The New York Times. New York Democrats. Trump Epstein fallout inside the bill and Hillary Clinton fight to avoid testifying in the House Epstein inquiry. The New York Times. Rhode Island deaths. Brown University shooting. Live updates. 2 dead, 9 injured and suspect in custody. The New York Times. Rhode Island deaths. Rozep view the person of interest was released without charges within 12 hours. From the article headline, Live updates. Person of interest detained after deadly shooting at Brown. The New York Times. Rural fire departments squeezed by software prices as investors profit. The New York Times. SantaCon fleece love and vomit the best and worst SantaCon stories of New York residents. The New York Times. South Carolina. A measles outbreak brings with it echoes of the pandemic. The New York Times. Syria deadly attack in Syria on U.S. troops exposes growing challenges for the Syrian leader. The New York Times. Trump crypto fallout. How the Times analyzed the SEC cryptocurrency enforcement. The New York Times. Trump crypto fallout. The SEC was tough on crypto. It pulled back after Trump returned to office. The New York Times. Trump Treasury. The war on wokeness comes to the U.S. Mint. The New York Times. TV on SNL. Trump blows up a familiar sleigh. The sleigh of Santa. The New York Times. Ukraine. Zelensky offers compromise before latest round of peace plan talks. The New York Times. Ukraine. Zelensky offers compromise for new round of Ukraine peace talks. The New York Times. Venezuela. Alvin Halsey, admiral who oversaw boat strikes off Venezuelan coast, retires. The New York Times. Washington residents return home to extensive flood damage. The New York Times. Washington, D.C. versus Republicans in Congress. House Republicans accuse D.C. police of manipulating crime statistics. The New York Times. Age 28 headlines. The Guardian. December 15, 2025. California deaths. Donald Trump condemned for disgusting and depraved statement after deaths of Rob Reiner and wife Michelle. Live updates. California deaths. From Seinfeld to Shawshank. Rob Reiner changed Hollywood forever. Movies. The Guardian. California deaths. Nick Reiner. What do we know about the son of Rob Reiner who was arrested? Rob Reiner. The Guardian. California deaths. Nick, the son of Rob Reiner, arrested in connection with deaths of his parents. Movies. The Guardian. Consumers reading suddenly. It was everywhere. Why some books become blockbusters overnight. Books. The Guardian. Film. A lot of stories, but very few facts. Skeptics push back on buzzy UFO documentary. The Guardian. Republicans just disgraceful outcry as heritage think tank appoints far-right figure to key post-U.S. politics. The Guardian. Rhode Island deaths. 2 victims named in Brown University shooting as police continue search for killer. Brown University shooting. The Guardian. Trump Supreme Court fallout. The U.S. Supreme Court TikTok ruling is a scandal. Evelyn Dueck and Jamil Jaffer. The Guardian. Sweden music fan stole my car. Ariel, how rock said, made it must have been love culture. The Guardian. Syria. Assad family live in Russian luxury. as Bashar brushes up on ophthalmology. Bashar al-Assad. The Guardian. Age 29 headlines. The Guardian. December 14, 2025. California deaths. Director and actor Rob Reiner found dead at home with wife Michelle. Singer Reiner. Movies. The Guardian. Rhode Island deaths. Brown University shooting. Authorities releasing sole person of interest. Rhode Island. The Guardian. Washington, D.C. Trump idea. Trump says building D.C. triumphal arch is primary thing of the domestic policy chief Donald Trump. The Guardian. Chile far right Jose Antonio cast favored to win as Chile votes in presidential runoff. Chile. The Guardian. Australia deaths. Bondi Beach shooting. Live updates. Albanese says national cabinet to discuss tougher gun laws today. Butchered pig heads found at Muslim cemetery in Sydney, Australia. Deaths. Bondi Beach terror attack. Father and son duo alleged to be behind shooting using licensed firearms. Bondi Beach terror attack. The Guardian. Age 30 headlines. Other media. December 14, 2025. RFK Jr. lack of knowledge of medicine and science. FDA Commissioner Marty McCarry brings the quackery.
Red Green Fox here. The quick red green fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red Green Fox here. Ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Kommite Schoen Luft, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzeks Wysokie Istot, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carson Council. 10. Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's Corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. Rosette view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette view. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.